Alright, so this latest episode of My Hero Academia, Season 5, Episode 18, is by and large, without a shadow of a doubt, the best episode to come out of this season, this otherwise horrendous season of My Hero Academia. It was stupendous. It was actually really, really good. And truthfully, coming from the last episode, which I felt like was the absolute worst, I was sort of dreading this episode. I was feeling a little reluctant to even watch it, but now that I have, I will safely say that for once with this season, I actually appreciate and enjoyed this more than the manga equivalent. Truthfully, I feel like every aspect of this episode was done to a 10 and straight up amplified the groundwork that the manga had provided. From the very beginning with his juxtaposition of the previous endeavor to the man that he now is. At the time, he was definitely very insecure, thinking about how other people may be comparing him to the #1 hero at the time, All Might. All while really and truly nobody was thinking that sort of thing, especially not in the context that he was particularly in. Any sort of comparison that was to be bred in that way no doubt came from him and his bad attitude as compared to the smiling face of All Might. Now ending, although being a one-off villain, was really good. That was a phenomenal performance from him all throughout the episode. You could feel the madness, the depravity, the insanity of this character who desired, who longed to be killed by the smoldering inferno that was Endeavor. This is a madman who had been contemplating his suicide for a very long time, and it seems like in his madness what he sought was Endeavor simply because he was a hero who could potentially go beyond the typical bounds, who would actually kill an adversary. A rather strange concept, but truly, Ending is a villain that wants to be saved, and from his madness, that is the sort of safety that he desires. And in that, his targeting of Natsuo is peculiar to me, simply because in this world of heroics, where your identity is so public, you would imagine that there would be more precautions for one's family and loved ones or things like that, but no, they seem to just be free game, as Natsuo was able to be taken just like that. And this is the #1 hero's son. So if he can get caught up like this, I can only imagine the families of the triple-digit heroes. And at that, I can't say that I would be jumping for joy when it comes to having a family member that is a hero. Although contextually, with how paraded heroics are in this society, I imagine that they don't have that sort of thought process mostly. And now this may be very subjective, although most discussions tend to be in a lot of ways. I feel like this arc, this Endeavor Agency arc, is the funniest Bakugo has ever been to me. I feel like this is his comedic high point. He's actually pretty comical throughout this whole thing. And at that, although we don't get much of him, I do really enjoy Endeavor's driver here. His personal chauffeur is pretty funny, and the way that he was able to blow up on Bakugo and actually shock him, who is of course a major loudmouth, was really interesting and funny. And listen, when they all came out of the car, when their super suits got blown out of the trunk, I was like, okay, this episode is hard. This is going crazy. This is pretty cool. But yeah, with Endeavor's hesitation in this episode, we were able to see our 3 heroes to be actually shine and outshine him, fulfilling the task that he had provided to them at the beginning of this arc. And I remember when these contents first hit the manga, I was saying to everyone that this is where we see the turning point of Deku's character. We are seeing the turning point wherein he is able to do things that nobody in his class could ever hope to do. I mean, his use of Black Whip here is incredible. It is sensational. It is fantastic. Literally nobody else in the class, and I've had people argue this with me back in the day, but no, now you know, nobody else in the class could do this. Lift up 3 cars simultaneously in one single jaunt. That takes incredible strength, speed, accuracy, and the appendages to even be able to do that. The closest you could possibly get would be Shoto and his ice, but that could be hazardous all on its own. But yeah, all 3 of them were able to internalize and learn from Endeavor's teachings and actually apply it here in a dazzling fashion. Now, I'm not gonna lie, the touching moments of this episode were really good. When Endeavor went and held his son Natsuo, it was sort of conflicting. You felt a certain way about it because you know their shared history, you know the past between them, but it is clear that Endeavor does care for his children. Even beyond Shoto, he is just a garbage human when it comes to expressing how he feels and treating people properly. Or at least he was. He's not attempting to appease, but rather atone at this point. And truly, I do believe that this Todoroki family drama is where Horikoshi's writing truly does shine. I mean, this is a long-standing subplot wherein we have some of the most compelling emotional scenes possible. And as opposed to other series where you'll have just complete and utter forgiveness, or you'll have a character that will just continue along their horrendous path without any reparations or any repentance. Here we have both the recognition of wrongdoing and a lack of forgiveness. Not in the sense of mean-spirited resentment, but rather just a realistic feeling. You know, you can't just forgive and forget and let bygones be bygones, especially not when you have lost a sibling to things of this sort. You can't always expect someone to be the bigger person. It's unfair, it really is in a lot of cases. And for some people, they are able to get past that, and that is the example that we have with Shoto. But in the case of Natsuo, it is another side of the spectrum, as well as his sister Fuyumi is another side of the spectrum, which all just exemplify that everyone responds to these sorts of traumas differently. Everyone is able to cope with it in different ways, and that is okay. I mean, these sorts of situations are so complicated that it is not one size fits all. You can't just have a cure-all for these sorts of things. And I guess that's why I'm so fascinated by this subplot, because you don't really see that in a lot of other series. But yeah, to further emphasize the change of Endeavor, you have Ending over there just sobbing at the sight of this arrogant flame just withering out and changing. Whether you love him or you hate him, Endeavor is changing. Rather than a redemption arc flat out, this is a repentance arc, I feel. All in all, this was a pretty good wrap up to this Endeavor Agency arc. And I mean, I am far from satisfied with the arc as a whole, but to close it out, we actually did get something good here, as the animation was dazzling, the story was great, which is of course a given. And I mean, from the theatrics to the voice work, it was just good stuff, totally. The way we have Endeavor's self-induced separation from his family as opposed to him just shoehorning himself into the equation, it just feels good, and it is just a respectable conclusion. The title of this episode, The Unforgiven, is just perfect. But of course, things could not be all sunshine and rainbows, as next episode, although I don't believe that it's going to be a bad episode necessarily, we don't have any indication of something like that, we do know that it is going to be a continuation of this out of order placement of this series. As next up, we have the Kurogiri stuff going on, and these events are not at all a part of the Endeavor Agency arc, so that means that we are getting even more content that is not what we are supposed to be getting right now. And I truly do not like it one bit, because considering the manga content and what we are shown with this preview, it is evident that this is going to at the very least, last for another 2 episodes. They cannot contain all that they have here in a single episode at all. In fact, considering how this season has been playing out, I imagine that it will more than likely be 3 episodes, based on the fact that they can more than likely shoehorn a good bit of flashbacks into that last bit of content. And forgive me, I am attempting to be as spoiler free as I possibly can, but for my manga readers, you would know that this would be chapter 257 that I am referring to. Which kind of hurts just a bit, because chapter 257 is a personal favorite of ours over here on the channel, because it is around that time that we first began to pop off when it comes to My Hero Academia content and got our start. And at that, I am very curious how they're going to play certain aspects of these chapters out, simply because they require context from an arc that we have now skipped over for the time being. So as far as I'm concerned, it's either going to be just cut out of the equation entirely, or they're still going to keep it in, which is going to be very, very bizarre because you don't have that added context. But whatever the case may be, this is a bit concerning based on pacing, how this is actually going to work out and pan out. Because this arc that they skipped over is by and large quite possibly the best arc of My Hero Academia to date. I mean, this is an arc that most manga readers not only put in their top 5, but at least in their top 3. So suffice to say, it is really good. That being said, the Joint Training Battles arc lasted for 23 chapters and ended up being 9 episodes total. Then you have the Endeavor Agency arc, which was less than half of that and lasted 11 chapters, which equated to 6 episodes. But then you have this arc that has been skipped over and held for the end of season 5, which comes out to 22 episodes, or double the Endeavor Agency arc, and will now have either 5 or 4 episodes to its name. So perhaps in knowing that, you are able to properly see the discrepancy here. I mean, this arc is virtually the same length as the joint training one, but granted, with the joint training arc, there was a lot of unnecessary flashbacks and the like, but even still, for that to have gotten 9 episodes and here we are getting like 5 or 4 at best, I can't say that I'm exactly optimistic. But we'll just have to wait and see how things do pan out when the time does in fact come. However, if at any point you decide to dabble into the manga side of things, do yourself a favor and check out the description, because there we have our RightStuf affiliate link. RightStuf is our absolute favorite place to buy manga, and by doing so, you're able to additionally help out the channel, so go ahead and do so. And I mean, of course, go ahead and subscribe to Plot Armor with notifications on, and if you have any thoughts on our discussion here, go ahead and hit us up in the comments or over on Twitter and Instagram at PlotArmorYT, because when it comes to bringing you some of the best My Hero Academia content on the platform, Plot Armor has you covered. As always, I'm Sliceable Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.